Hey guys, Coach Casey here. Today we are going to jump in and talk about what is true off-leash training. And what I mean by true off-leash training, what is the process that gets you to an off-leash dog the proper way? And what there's some trends out there that, other people may be advertising off-leash type thing, right? But it's not really off-leash, it might be invisible. And that's what I'm going to jump in and talk about. And it's basically the use of remote collars. And first of all, I'm going to preface by saying I have no problem with remote collars. I think they're a fantastic tool in the right hands. I think they are a tool that, every tool has a purpose and a place. I think when you start using this tool as your go-to with every dog, I don't think you're really doing it right. But again, this is, again, my opinion. And this is what I've noticed over the years. So, and that's what I'm going to share with you is, basically you can, take a dog through 6 phases of training. Basically, more importantly, you can take a dog through 3 phases of training: learning, reinforcing, and proofing. Actually, 4 or 5, because you need to take them through unleashing and have an unleashed dog. And that's ideal situation to do it. It takes a lot more repetitions, but you're doing it the right way. The dog's learning the proper communication, what the tools mean. And that way, when you get to unleashing, you don't have a crutch. You don't have, basically what I mean by that is, you know, basically this all comes down to there's a lot an invisible leash. A remote collar is more an invisible leash compared to true off leash, which is you have nothing in your hands. You don't have a remote to rely on. You have nothing but your verbal commands to get your dog to execute off leash outdoors. That's how I train. That to me is a dream dog, right? That's where you get that from your communication through doing the process and building that bond with your dog. That's what true off leash dog is. That's what a dream dog is. And, it's unfortunate, but, and I don't really care that this is happening. I'm just saying, as long as the owners are aware. But what you'll see a lot of is, advertisements for 6 weeks to off leash, 8 weeks to off leash. And then they're charging, a pretty good penny for this kind of thing. And then what they're doing, and the reason I'm sharing this diagram again here, guys, is that basically when they say that something can happen that fast to off leash, is that, for one, they're probably creating a crutch, which means you can't never take the collar off or not have the remote in your hand to get your dog to listen. But what they're doing is they're combining the learning phase, a reinforcing phase, and a proofing phase all in one. And I know the process. I know companies that used to do it. They're franchise companies, and they do it very quick, and they get results. I'm not going to lie. The results are there. It's like, wow, look at that off-leash dog. And if you zoom in and look, you'll see the remote control in the owner's hand or the trainer's hands. I've seen even, phenomenal trainers, when they train this way, though, they create that crutch too. They either take the collar off or they don't have the remote, and the dog is just not near as good. Whereas to me, that kind of falls under, you guys hear me always talk about gadgets, all the stuff that you put on these dogs to get them to listen and all that stuff. Get rid of it. Take your dog through the proper process, teach them the proper training, and you don't need that kind of stuff. Right? Doesn't that kind of make sense? Right? A true off-leash dog is off-leash. You have no recourse. There's nothing you can do but use your verbal commands. A remote controlled dog, which is what's always advertised, off-leash in 6 or 8 weeks. If you have a remote in your hand, that's still a crutch. If you don't have the remote, is your dog going to listen? If the dog doesn't have their collar on, are they going to listen? If not, that's not a true off-leash dog. And that's, like I said, I don't care that it's being trained that way. I'm just saying owners need to be aware, they kind of, what they're getting into with that. Because in this, I'm not trying to rub other trainers the wrong way. I know a lot of trainers train that way, and it's a fantastic way to train. Again, nothing against remote collars. They're a fantastic tool in the right hands. I just like to, align my dogs more with their personality. And, I might train one dog in a remote collar. This one has a martingale. This one has a buckle collar. This one needed a pin. You know what I mean? All my dogs that I train have different tools depending on their personality and situations. So when you start just putting the same tool on every dog, to me, that's when you're kind of doing it wrong and kind of falling into a pattern and making dogs fit into your pattern, if that makes sense. And that's where, when you start doing that, you'll get some dogs that really excel. Some dogs that are like, they're okay. And then some dogs that fell off. It's because you don't know when to change it up. You're doing the same thing over and over. And that's what happens. A lot of places you go to train and hit, put this collar on your dog, put this collar on your dog, and that's what you use. But, beware. Can you take that collar off and still have your dog to listen? That's like I said, if you go through the phases in a proper order, you teach it, you reinforce it, you proof it the right way, you can take your leash off. Bottom line. Invisible leash is just like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, right? It's there. It's working. You know it is. I know it is. You just can't see it. You just can't, to the human eye, you can't see it. It doesn't mean you're not attached. And that's so, what I mean? When you see off leash, see if it's true off leash or if it's invisible, because there is a difference in my eyes. You know what I mean? An off leash dog is trained a hell of a lot better than an invisible leash trained dog. And I've done both. And I know the process it takes to do both. So that's what I'm saying. There is a difference. Others may disagree and whatever, that's the case, but that's, hey, again, this is my opinion. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. That's basically it. I just, if you can see somewhere that basically it goes back, what is that law that if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is? I don't remember what that law, but that's kind of the thing. It's like, wow, I didn't get this dog off leash in a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? Even the finest of dog trainers, I can take dogs in within 5 days, get phenomenal results. But I'm not going to sit and kind of preach something that I'm not doing. You know what I mean? Hey, off leash in a certain amount of time when I'm not truly getting them off leash. I'm just giving them an invisible leash. So I would just say, hey, remote collared trained dog in 6 weeks instead of saying off leash. And that's all I'm trying to say here, guys, is that off leash is not invisible. And there is a difference. Hope that doesn't piss anyone off, but hey, it is what it is. So let's call it what it is. All right, guys, until next time, looking forward to seeing you again, but we'll wrap this up for today. And I guess that'll do it. Happy training, guys.